Welcome to A Roll of the Dice. My name's Paul, and this is the next of our video where I'm talking about autism, my journey through autism, coming to understand it. We have our website. Is the links in the description where we've got some of our products on sale. If you see anything you like, please feel free to purchase it. If you could also like and subscribe to our channel, that will certainly help us build up what we're trying to do here. We've got some new content on the website as well. I've written another blog. Last time we talked about a childhood favourite, Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs. This time I look into Risk, so feel free to read that. We also should have the first video by my dad, Rob, talking about photography. He'll introduce himself to you and talk about what he does, what he's planning. It's a good video. It's an interesting video. He's very into photography. I think we can probably get a link to his Instagram put in, so you can see he does a lot of wildlife photography. Some really nice stuff. His latest one, he caught a picture of a barn house. So if you're interested in that type of thing, in photography, how to take photos of your models and making a picture. I believe the latest one he's managed to get hold of is a barn owl, I think in flight. So you'll see his photography, what he loves. He's going to show you how to build a small studio at home using lighting, DIY things. So lots of things that you'll see in his series of videos, which if you like that type of thing, I'm sure you'll really enjoy. At some point, I will get on and discuss board games, what I like about them, what ones enthusiastic, why I feel the need to collect every expansion on a particular board game. So we'll go into that in future videos. But what I wanted to really talk about this time is my autism, how I came to view that I'm autistic. Now, I will make a disclaimer here. I am not an expert. I don't know a huge amount about autism. All I know is what I've read, what friends of mine have told me about it, and going and looking into it in more detail, I've realised a lot of the traits I'm reading about, whilst I researched it to understand my children, I have. So I'm still on a journey learning about autism. Now, we've just recently signed up to, recommended to me, I'll give a shout out to a website, joyfullydifferent.co. There's where they try to help neurodivergent people within business. So I'm now looking into that. I found an interesting video I'm going to watch later about avoiding burnout, which is something I have had in my life. So so I'll give a quick shout out to them, and hopefully there's a lot of resources. If you are looking for that type of thing, you can go to them, and I'm hoping to find a lot of things there myself. Now, I would say one of the reasons why I've never really thought about being autistic before. Now, I'm almost 45 years old. It's only really this year I would say that I've looked in and thought, yes, I really need to be diagnosed and to look into that. Now, I was born in 1980, so I consider myself right at the end of Gen X. So I was born in August, so my school year was probably the very last school year of Gen X. So a lot of the things that people research and understand nowadays, we simply didn't know about, or wasn't widely known about 30 years ago. So from my own personal experience, when I thought of autism, mental health disorders back then, I always thought it in the terms of other people. Now, growing up, I knew about, I believe it's called, would be classed as neurodivergent. I may be wrong, like I said, I'm not an expert in it. But growing up, we knew about Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, although it was called by a different thing back then. And so, to my mind, things like autism, Spurgis, which I believe was talked about then, don't think we'd heard of ADHD, that not been diagnosed. But a lot of those things, to my mind, I always thought you could tell if somebody had one of these conditions. They always seemed slightly different. We weren't cruel, we weren't nasty to them, but you could usually tell. So when I thought about neurodivergence and autism, I always thought of it in a way of something other people had. I never thought about it in terms of the way I am. When I look back on my feelings, my thoughts, what was going through my head at the time, I can see where the markers are. Back then, certainly, I never understood it. And we wasn't really, I'm not sure if it was really understood when I was at school. Nobody ever really commented on things, which looking back seem a bit odd. I do wonder why it was never picked up. The past is a different country. That's the way things are. And hopefully we're picking it up a bit more nowadays. But my journey to understand it comes through friends, colleagues, and talking to them about their children, their grandchildren, how they've had to learn to help their grandchildren. And gradually, it's helped me come to an understanding. So, for example, we've got some very good dear friends of ours who live in another part of the country. Now, their son, I believe he was originally diagnosed with Asperger's, but I think someone can in the comments correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that term's been folded into the wider autism spectrum. But as their son was growing up, and he really is a lovely boy, very dear boy. But as he's been growing up, they really had to learn how to understand him, how to work with him, and get to know him, get to understand it. So a lot of my knowledge came from them. But again, it was always still in my head that that was another thing, something that was happening to other people, something that they were dealing with, which I could talk to them about, and help me to relate to their son. But still, it wasn't something I really thought about myself. Now, another time that I came to know about autism. Now, I worked at Royal Mail for 20 years, worked in a few different offices, got to know a few different people. And a colleague of mine, I remember we were chatting to her. I worked in the business supply section. We were sitting there having lunch. We were talking about her grandchild. And she was explaining what she had learned about autism. And through what she'd had to learn about him, she made something rather interesting, a rather interesting comment that having gotten to know about the different markers of autism, she could see a lot of the colleagues we worked were probably somewhere on the spectrum themselves. And looking back, it kind of makes sense because it was a very structured environment. I suspect this is why they're having a lot of trouble retaining people. All the changes, it's a very different place to what it was 20 years ago when I started. But when I started, it was very structured. Even you got in, you knew what time you started, you knew what time each different aspects of the jobs needed doing, you knew what time you went out on delivery, how long things could take. So it was a very structured day. And even the year was very structured as well. It had peaks and troughs. April, for example, was a very busy time of year because March, April, because of the financial year. There was a big dip come summer when things dropped off, and then a big build up to the heaviest time, which was at the time that was Christmas. It was insanely insanely busy, but you still knew what to expect. You knew what to expect depending on what time of year it was. Even days of the week, there were heavy days, there were light days. It was structured, so I could understand why somebody who needed that kind of structure in their life would go for a job like that. But again, it still struck me as this was something to do with other people. It never really applied to me, so I never thought about it in a way how it affected me. Now, fast forward a few years, and our friends who I mentioned earlier, we were visiting them, and they said, "Had we ever considered that our youngest could be autistic?" Now, he was diagnosed with hypermobility, and we knew, these other things. But he was the youngest by a few years. So we always expected him to be a bit behind the other two. But we never really considered until it was pointed out a lot of the markers that he had, the signs he was giving, pointed to autism. So we looked into it, and I'm sure as a lot of parents find this as well, that in many cases the system is just not set up to help. We tried to go through the school, we explained why we thought we might be autistic, we asked them to look into it, but because he was quiet and didn't cause any troubles, they said no, there was no problem. So we've had a lot of things to go through, and we're still dealing with our youngest. But he's happy. Now the COVID lockdowns did affect my eldest to a lot more. My daughter got long COVID; she's had to deal with a lot of illness. So again, really diagnosed. And my middle boy. Um, he always being the middle one, he tended to keep quiet, so we never really thought about that. Doing a lot of research, we wondered whether he may have ADHD. Again, speaking to our friends, it was confirmed. Yes, it wouldn't surprise us if he did have that. And again, as I'm sure a lot of parents find, the system it's quite overwhelmed, especially where we live. It took us months and months before we could get to see somebody get referred. We went through all the symptoms for ADHD and said, you know, he had some of the markings, but not enough to be diagnosed that. He's probably got autism, so then we started the whole process again. And our friends have been really, really helpful when we last visited them. Really had a good chat, went into a lot of things. And there were some really good suggestions, including recommending researching books, really looking into it so we can help them because now they've left school. The system it does seem very overwhelmed. There's a lot of good people trying very hard, but it does seem very, very overwhelmed. But this was the point when I started looking a lot into autism to try to help understand how I could help my children learn to work or find work that they can cope with. And going through the books, as I'm sure a lot of people who found, you go through and you start thinking, yeah, I do that, and I do that, and I do that. Take masking. This is a term I never really heard about and came across and thought, actually, that's exactly what I do to cope with situations. Many times in my life, I've put on a persona to help me cope with situations, and it also helps guard me so that I don't feel vulnerable or hurt. And it's all sorts of things like this that I've gradually understood and learned. There's things, and I'll do it in a future video about fine motor skills, problems from that, which actually explains a huge amount of things about. So really, these sets of videos are going through the things I'm learning to understand. And as well as I said last time, trying to build something so that I can help my kids be able to get an income, to be able to support themselves, because the system is very overwhelmed, and there's so many people that are trying to find help. It's kind of, I feel it falls to me to be able to step up and help them build something that can support themselves. But whilst we're doing this, we'll go on a journey together, which I'm hoping may help people my age who've never really thought about this. Because for some people, just knowing and understanding the signs of autism helps them learn to deal with it. For me, I was diagnosed with depression. I will do a video on that and how I think I have had bouts of depression, but the autism has actually helped me knowing about it and understanding it. And I am trying to get diagnosed because there's medication issues as well, which I think would be helpful to be properly diagnosed and understand that. But it has helped me just what I've learned so far to know what I'm capable of, what I can handle, and also more importantly, what I can't handle, so I don't push myself and burn out, which I have done in the past simply by not understanding, the condition I have. So hopefully this video has given a lot of people things to think, maybe help about. If there's something any discussions, anything you'd like me to cover in a future video, feel free to comment. Maybe, hopefully, we'll come across something that we can connect with and help. If not, I may look into building something myself, just to help connect with either parents who are going through the same struggle, because that really can seem like you're struggling on your own when you're trying to get your children looked at through an already overwhelmed system. To simply having lived their whole lives not understanding why they react in the ways they do. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm not an expert on it. I'm just an amateur trying to understand why my head works the way it does. So, really appreciate everybody having a listen. We do have some fresh stuff up on YouTube, on our website. Feel free to go have a look, and I'll speak to you in a future video.